Something quiet has been happening beneath the surface of modern male behavior, and most men don't realize they're participating in it until the damage is already done. You can see it in the way a man carries himself after a particular kind of rejection. Not the sharp, clean pain of being told no, but the slow erosion that comes from bending himself into shapes that were never his to begin with. It starts with a text message he rewrites 4 times before sending. It continues with an apology he doesn't believe he owes. It deepens when he cancels Friday night with his training partners because she might be free, only to find out she isn't, and he sits alone, scrolling through her social media, trying to decode what he did wrong. The pattern is so typical now that it's become invisible. Men mistake it for modern dating. They call it respect, empathy, and emotional intelligence. But underneath the language, something else is happening. A man is learning to betray himself in small increments, and with each betrayal, he becomes less of what he was pretending to offer in the first place. I work with men who describe this feeling but lack the words for it. They say they feel heavy. They say they've lost their edge. They describe numbness that started so gradually they can't pinpoint when it began. One man told me he used to walk into rooms differently. He didn't think about it then, but looking back, he remembers a kind of centeredness he can't access anymore. Now he second guesses every sentence. He measures his opinions against what she might think. He edits himself in real time, and the exhausting part isn't the editing, it's that he started to forget what the original version sounded like. This is not about one woman or one relationship. This is about a script he downloaded without consent, a program running in the background of his operating system, slowly consuming resources until the whole machine begins to lag. And when you ask him what changed, he'll point to external circumstances, his job, the dating market, the culture. But he won't see the core mechanism. He won't know that he's been seeking approval in a game that punishes men for pursuing it. Nietzsche spent much of his life studying what he called the inversion of values, the process by which a culture's strongest instincts turn against themselves and begin to worship their opposites. He watched European men of the 19th century become tame, domesticated, neutered by Christianity's emphasis on meekness and self-denial. He saw vitality traded for safety, strength for moral posturing, the will to power replaced by the will to be liked. And while the religious framework has changed, the psychological structure remains. Modern men are not encouraged to become powerful. They are encouraged to become harmless, not kind harmless, not humble apologetic, not respectful deferential to the point of self-erasure. And nowhere is this inversion more visible than in the way men have been taught to approach women. They've been told that desire itself is dangerous, that masculine initiative is aggression, that pursuit without guaranteed reciprocation is a moral failing. So they wait, they hint, they orbit, they make themselves available, and call it respect. And they do not understand why this same behavior makes them invisible. Here is the thesis that will structure everything that follows, and if you understand it, you will see it operating in every failed relationship, every unreciprocated text, every quiet withdrawal from the field. A man who seeks a woman's approval before he has secured his own becomes the kind of man she cannot desire. Not because she is cruel, not because women are shallow or confused, but because desire does not obey moral reasoning. It obeys power. Not power over her power over himself. The man who centers his life around her validation, shapes his days according to her moods, and abandons his mission to prove his availability is not offering love. He is offering dependency. And dependency, no matter how it disguises itself in the language of care and attentiveness, repels desire at the biological level. Nietzsche understood this. He saw that strength is not a preference, it is a prerequisite. The moment a man begins to kneel emotionally, the moment he makes her the axis around which his world rotates, he has already lost. Not lost her, lost himself, and she will sense it before he admits it to himself. Watch how this plays out in the modern dating landscape. A man meets a woman. There is attraction, at least from his side. He begins to pursue, but he does so carefully, cautiously, with the manual open beside him. He texts, but not too much. He shows interest but tries not to seem desperate. He compliments him, but in ways that feel safe, sanitized, and deniable. He is already negotiating with an invisible tribunal, already imagining how his behavior might be perceived, judged, screenshotted, and discussed in group chats. And because he is dealing, he is not leading. Because he is performing safety, he is not expressing desire. She responds politely, maybe warmly, but there is no urgency in her replies. He interprets this as a sign that he needs to do more, be more available, more understanding, more patient. So he does. He rearranges his schedule. He becomes the person who always responds immediately. He offers emotional support that wasn't asked for. He listens to her complaints about other men and positions himself as the alternative, the good one, the one who wouldn't do those things. And in doing all of this, he has made a catastrophic miscalculation. He has assumed that demonstrating his virtue will generate attraction. But attraction is not a reward for good behavior. It is a response to presence, to certainty, to a man who seems to exist independently of her approval. Let me show you the mechanism more precisely, because this is where most men lose the thread. It begins with a rupture so small he doesn't notice it. He wants her. That wanting is not wrong. But instead of letting that desire exist as a simple, direct force, I want you, here is my offer. Accept it or don't, he buries it beneath strategy. He begins to manage her perception of him. He curates his texts. He performs emotional labor as currency. He trades his time, his attention, his mission, all in the hope that she will see his value and choose him. And here is what Nietzsche would recognize immediately. The moment a man needs a woman to validate his worth, he has already placed her above him, not in status, not in importance, but in ontological hierarchy. She becomes the judge, he becomes the defendant. And no woman, no matter how kind or conscious, can desire a man who has made her the arbiter of his self-respect. Now the man is in the second phase, though he does not recognize it as such. He tells himself that the timing is off. He tells himself she's been hurt before and needs patience. He describes himself as saying that modern women are overwhelmed by options, and he needs to stand out by being consistent. These are not lies. They may even contain elements of truth, but they are not the truth he needs. The truth is, she has already categorized him, not consciously, not maliciously, but efficiently. Her instincts have taken inventory. Here is a man who will not leave. Here is a man who rearranges his schedule to fit mine. Here is a man who absorbs my complaints and offers no resistance, no challenge, no risk. And risk, whether we admit it or not, is inseparable from attraction. The man who is safe in every sense, emotionally, socially, psychologically, is the man who triggers no urgency. He becomes a background character in her story. Useful, perhaps, comforting maybe, but never central. And the more he tries to prove himself, the deeper he sinks into this category. Every extra text is another vote of no confidence in himself. Every paragraph of explanation is another signal that he does not believe his presence alone is enough. I once spoke to a man who had been seeing a woman for 3 months. They had not defined the relationship. She had told him more than once that she wasn't ready for anything serious. He had accepted this and told himself he was being mature, patient, and emotionally intelligent. But his actions told a different story. He was fully committed. He had stopped pursuing other women. He had started planning his weekends around her availability. He had begun to feel a low-grade anxiety whenever she didn't respond within an hour. And when I asked him what he thought she was doing during those hours, he said he didn't want to know. That phrase, "I don't want to know," contains the entire structure of his problem. He had placed himself in a position of deliberate blindness because seeing clearly would require action, and action would require risk, and risk would require the possibility of loss. So instead he stayed. He tolerated ambiguity, he accepted inconsistency, and he told himself this was love, but Nietzsche would call it something else. He would call it resentment, the psychological state of the powerless who reframe their weakness as moral superiority. The man convinces himself that his passivity is patience, his tolerance is kindness, and his lack of boundaries is emotional generosity. and all the while he is disappearing. By the third phase, the man is barely recognizable to himself. He has not been to the gym in 2 weeks. He has let friendships decay because he is always waiting for her to confirm plans. His work suffers because he is mentally elsewhere, refreshing his phone, analyzing tone, trying to solve a puzzle that has no solution. After all, the puzzle is not intellectual, it is hierarchical. She is living her life. He is living in reaction to her life. And the cruelest part is that no one told him to do this. She did not ask him to abandon his routines. She did not demand that he center her. In fact, she may have even told him early on that she values independence and that she's attracted to men with purpose. But words are one channel, behavior is another. And when his behavior communicated that he would tolerate anything, accept any level of ambiguity, endure any amount of inconsistency as long as she stayed within reach, he taught her how to treat him. Not because she wanted to exploit him, but because people, men and women alike, will naturally deprioritize what is always available. Scarcity and value are intertwined at the psychological level. The man who is always there is the man who never has to be chosen. Now let's zoom out and see this pattern within the larger system, because what is happening to this one man is happening to millions of men simultaneously, and the structure of the environment is not neutral. Nietzsche spoke often about slave morality, the psychological framework of those who cannot seize power and so redefine powerlessness as virtue. In the 19th century, this took the form of Christian meekness. In the 21st century, it takes the form of what we might call performative harmlessness. Men are told from every institutional direction that masculinity is problematic, that desire is predatory, that approach is harassment unless she was already interested, in which case it wasn't an approach. It was mutual. The rules are deliberately contradictory because contradictory rules produce paralysis, and paralyzed men are compliant men. So men stop approaching, they stop initiating. They retreat to dating apps where they can be pre-screened, where risk is minimized, where every interaction is mediated by an algorithm designed to monetize loneliness. And in this environment, the average man's experience is not rejection, it is invisibility. He swipes, he matches occasionally, he sends a message that goes unanswered. He wonders what he did wrong, not realizing that he is competing in a market where the top 20% of men receive 8% of the interest, and the bottom 50% might as well not exist. But here is what the discourse misses. The problem is not that women are hypergamous or shallow. The problem is that men have been taught to see this environment as a moral test rather than a strategic field. They have been taught that if they are good enough, patient enough, empathetic enough, they will be rewarded. But sexual attraction is not meritocracy. It is an economy, and in any economy, value is determined by scarcity and demand, not by virtue. The man who makes himself abundant, who volunteers his commitment before it is asked for, who offers his attention as an all-access pass, has destroyed his own value. Not because he is bad, but because he is predictable. And predictability, in the context of desire, is the same as absence. Nietzsche wrote that what does not kill you makes you stronger. But he also understood the inverse. What does not challenge you makes you weaker. A relationship without tension, without resistance, without the possibility that you might walk away, this does not create depth. It creates dependency on one side and boredom on the other. Consider the broader consequences if a man does not understand this. Suppose he continues to operate from the frame of earning approval rather than offering value and walking away if it is not matched. He may eventually enter a relationship, but it will be built on a foundation of deference. He will have gotten in by proving he is safe, and safety will define the terms of engagement. She will lead. She will decide. She will set the temperature, the pace, and the boundaries, and he will accept this because he is grateful to be chosen at all. But gratitude is not the same as respect, and over time the lack of respect will corrode everything. She will become frustrated with him, often without understanding why. She will describe him as passive, as absent even when he's present, as someone she can't rely on in the way she needs. And he will be confused because he has done everything right according to the manual he was given. He has been kind. He has been supportive. He has listened. He has sacrificed, and none of it mattered, because the manual was written by people who do not understand desire. It was written by people who are afraid of desire, and it has produced a generation of men who have mistaken the absence of danger for the presence of attraction. I have watched this pattern destroy men from the inside, not loudly, not dramatically, but steadily like rust. They become strangers in their own lives. They stop trusting their instincts because their instincts have been pathologized. They stop saying what they mean because they have been taught that their unfiltered thoughts are offensive. They stop pursuing what they want because the pursuit itself has been rebranded as entitlement. And so they wait. They wait for permission. They wait for signs. They wait for certainty in a domain where certainty does not exist. And while they wait, they watch other men who did not read the manual, men who move through the world with a kind of audacity that seems almost illegal succeed. And they tell themselves those men are assholes. They describe themselves as saying they want respect, but actually reward narcissism, and in this way they complete the cycle of resentment. They make their powerlessness into a moral identity. They become the nice guy, not as a description, but as a prison. Nietzsche would tell you that the nice guy is not lovely, he is cowardly. Not because he fears physical danger, but because he fears judgment, rejection, and the loss of the moral high ground. He has made a bargain. I will never make you uncomfortable, and in return, you will choose me. But this is not a relationship. It is a contract written by someone with no leverage. And contracts without leverage are not honored. They are ignored. The woman does not wake up one day and realize that the nice guy has been there all along and that she should choose him. She continues to engage with men who make her feel something, even if that something is uncertain or involves risk, because uncertainty and risk are the preconditions for desire. The nice guy offers certainty, and indeed, when it comes too early and costs too little, it is indistinguishable from entrapment. So what does the sovereign man do differently? Not the caricature, not the performative alpha, but the man who has understood the lesson at the heart of Nietzsche's work. That power is not taken from others, it is reclaimed from the parts of yourself that gave it away. Begin here. Notice when you are editing yourself in her presence. Notice when you are about to apologize for something you do not regret. Notice when you are rearranging your week around the possibility that she might text you. And stop. Not as a strategy, not as a tactic to make her chase you, but because those behaviors are symptoms of self-abandonment, and self-abandonment is the one thing that no external relationship can fix. If you do not belong to yourself, you cannot offer yourself to anyone else. You can only provide your own performance, and performances exhaust both the actor and the audience. Refuse to negotiate with her moods as if they are verdicts on your worth. When she is distant, let her be distant. Do not fill the silence with explanations or apologies or attempts to fix what you did not break. This is not cruelty. This is the boundary. You are allowing her to have her experience without making it your emergency, and in doing so, you are communicating something that words cannot, that you are not desperate, that your peace is not contingent on her approval, that you have a life that exists whether she participates in it or not. Women do not want to be the center of a man's universe. They want to be drawn into the orbit of a man who already has one. Recover your mission, not as a tactic to attract women, but because a man without a mission is a man waiting to be assigned one. And the mission assigned to him will never be his. It will be hers, or his employer's, or the culture's, but it will not be his. And a man living someone else's mission is a dead man on a long delay. Find the thing you would do, even if no one applauded. The thing that makes you lose track of time. The thing you used to do before you started measuring your days by her texts. And return to it, not part-time, not as a hobby you mentioned that it seems interesting, but as the central organizing principle of your hours. Let her wonder where you are. Let her notice that you are no longer available on demand. And if this causes her to lose interest, you have not lost anything. You have discovered that she was never interested in you, she was interested in your attention. Understand that loss is part of the structure. Nietzsche wrote about amor fati, the love of fate, the willingness to embrace what is rather than what you wish were genuine. Most men avoid loss at all costs. They stay in relationships that numb them. They tolerate disrespect because walking away feels like failure. But the sovereign man understands that staying in the wrong place is an absolute failure. Loss is information. It tells you who is aligned with your path and who is not. It tells you what you were pretending not to see, and when you stop fearing loss, you stop being controllable, because the man who is willing to lose you is the man you cannot manipulate with guilt, with silence, with the threat of withdrawal. He has already accepted the possibility of your absence, and that acceptance is not coldness, it is freedom. Let me show you two futures. In the first, you ignore what you have read here. You tell yourself it doesn't apply to you, or that it's too harsh, or that your situation is different. You continue to operate from the same frame: be more, do more, prove more, and eventually she will see. You stay in conversations that go nowhere. You invest in people who do not invest back. You shrink yourself to fit into spaces that were never designed for you. And 5 years from now, you are smaller. Not physically, but in the way you carry yourself. You have learned to expect less. You have learned to call disappointment realism. You have a network of acquaintances, but no brotherhood. You have relationships, but no depth. And worst of all, you have stopped believing that anything else is possible. You have made peace with a life that was never yours. In the second future, you take this as an initiation. You see that everything you have experienced up until now was training, not for how to win approval, but for how to stop needing it. You walk away from people who drain you. You stop explaining yourself to those who have already decided not to understand. You rebuild your days around principles instead of reactions. You train your body not because it makes you attractive, but because it makes you capable. You read not to sound smart, but to sharpen your vision. You spend time with men who are also walking this path, and the conversations are different now: less posturing, less complaining, more building. And 5 years from now, you will be quieter, but people will listen when you speak. You are less available, but your time is valued. You have fewer relationships, but the ones you have are real. Women are still part of your life, but they are no longer the point of your life. And because they are no longer the point, they show up differently. The ones who stay respect what you have built, and the ones who leave were never going to stay anyway. This is not a guarantee that you will find the perfect partner or that your life will become easy. Sovereignty does not eliminate difficulty, it eliminates confusion. You will still face rejection. You will still encounter women who do not value what you offer, but you will no longer internalize that as evidence of your inadequacy. You will see it as misalignment. And misalignment is not a problem to fix, it is information to act on. You will learn to say no. You will learn to walk away early. You will learn to trust the quiet voice that tells you when something is wrong, even when the surface looks fine. And this will make you, by modern standards, difficult. Women who are used to negotiating with men who have no center will not know what to do with you. Some will test you, some will leave, and you will let them, because you understand now that the woman worth having is not the one who needs you to be smaller. It is the one who challenges you to remain large. Here is the core of everything. You cannot negotiate desire, and you cannot earn respect by giving away your power. A man who makes his life about a woman will eventually be left by that woman, not because she is cruel, but because she is human, and humans do not value what they did not have to work for. She does not kill your purpose. She reveals its absence. She does not take your power. You hand it to her every time you betray what you know to be true to keep her comfortable. And if you continue to do this, you will not only lose her, you will lose yourself. But if you answer this, if you take responsibility not for her feelings but for your own structure, if you rebuild your life around a mission that exists independent of her validation, you will discover something unexpected. You will find that you no longer need her to choose you. You are simply offering what you have built, and she is welcome to join or not. And that shift in frame, that move from seeking approval to providing value, is the difference between a man who spends his life reacting and the man who creates the life he wants and invites others into it. If this landed somewhere in you, If it names something you have been carrying without language, then do not let it end here. Share this with men who need it. Subscribe to keep this work alive, and more than anything, act. Because philosophy without action is entertainment, and you did not come here to be entertained. You came here because something inside you recognized that your life is not supposed to feel like this. And you were right. A man who kneels emotionally will never be chosen by the woman he wants. He will only be tolerated by the one who needs him.